okay, we're going to close this deal. Let's do it. Like I have that drive. So the drive was missing. So I think that
Yeah.
was the key realization.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Stepping Up Changemaker Stories. I'm Catherine. I'm your host, and I have the pleasure of sitting down today with the incredible Helen, the managing director of Uncommonly Good People, affectionately known as UGP to our friends. And thank you for joining us here today to hear Helen's story, a British professional now making waves in Singapore, leading a digital recruitment consultancy in Asia Pacific region. Helen is also a devoted mom. She is the powerhouse in her field and a passionate advocate for diversity and inclusion. And her commitment to kindness and people shines through in all she does. So I hope you will enjoy this conversation filled with insights and transformative power of self-leadership and why it is important to bet on yourself in this one and only life. Enjoy.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm talking to one of my favorite people. I am so grateful for you, Helen. Thank you so much for coming here and would love to hear from you, your stories. And yeah.
I'm excited to share them. I'll probably talk too much.
Love it. Helen, tell us a little bit about you. For those of you who don't know you, how would you summarize about you?
Okay, so yeah, I'm Helen. I run a recruitment consultancy in Singapore called Uncommonly Good People. I started it around about 3 years ago after having a bit of a long career in internal and in-house recruitment, but also as well in media and advertising and primarily in sales. So that's me from a work perspective. Life, I live in Singapore. I'm married. I have a son. And yeah, that's about me, really. That sort of sums it up.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a lot of things about Helen, so it's hard to summarize, right, in 30 seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Depends who you talk to.
she's amazing. Yeah, Helen, I would love to hear from you about your stories on how you actually, what prompted you um, that desire to change your career and how you started UGP.
So essentially, my career's kind of been across a couple of different countries. So I'm from the UK. So obviously started in London where I worked in advertising. I mean, I came out of uni, I was super excited. I was like, I'm going to be a writer. And then went to go work at a magazine. And like the only job I could get was like selling classified ads. So so that's what I did. That's how I decided to do that job. But it was really great. I then worked at News Corp, which is obviously a really big news publisher. And then from London, I then went to Sydney and worked at the same company. So worked in newspaper and digital publishing and ad sales within them in Sydney. And then, yeah, came to I'd been there for a couple of years and I was really lucky. I was, single, happy, free. And I just thought, oh, what shall I do? Where shall I go? So I was applying for jobs to move to Singapore or to Hong Kong or to the UK. And I was really lucky, actually. My recruiter, who I was working with, reached out to me and said, have you ever thought about being a recruiter? And I was like, no, how awful. Why would I ever want to do that? But that was my first reaction, right? I was like, oh, this is a bit, nah, I don't think it's for me. Like I'd never really thought about it. And then after sort of spending a bit of time in terms of like what my values are, what I want to do in my life, all of that kind of stuff, I kind of realized that this was like really like a gift. I don't know, sometimes you have those interactions and something just clicks and you're like, hang on, I want that. And then yeah, I just went for it. I think obviously it's really scary changing your career, but I said to myself, I made a promise to myself, the first job I'd get offered, I would go and do. And that was the first job I got offered. So
Wow.
off I went. Yeah. And I think I always wanted to work with people. I was thinking about doing a master's. I was thinking about doing maybe like something to do with like organizational development. And so yeah, it really just kind of clicked and came together. So I was super lucky with that. And then that's how I ended up in recruitment. I worked in a consultancy, and then I worked in-house at Omnicom for about 3.5, 4 years, and then came to start at UGP.
Yeah, you summarized it and it sounded very easy and fast. But I
It
am
was not.
sure, yes, that was not. So I love hearing that you talked about self-reflection. I think that's a bit of self-awareness as well. And like you talk about your knowing your values, and that also help you to know what you really want to do. And I'm just curious, what has helped you to propel, doing that transition? Was that the self-reflection? Was it something else
Yeah.
happen at the time?
Yeah, so definitely. I was okay at my job, but I wasn't great at it because I didn't try as hard as I should do. I realized that the reason why I wasn't great at what I did was because naturally I was okay at what I did. I was good. I was
Yeah.
good. But there were others who had more energy and were more excited about what we were doing. And for me, as an overview, I recruit across ad tech and media and everything like that. So I recruit in the area that I worked in before. So I loved it. But I don't know why I just wasn't pushing through with it. And then I suppose it's that it wasn't so much a realization, because the realization only came after I made the decision that I loved the industry, but what I loved the most was the people. So I just loved going and meeting people. So for those who don't really know what selling advertising entails, it entails just going and meeting loads of people, which I was great at. What I was not great at was closing the deals.
Yeah.
Like I would go out and be like, this is what we do, but don't worry about it. Like if you don't want it, like think about it, which is obviously the complete opposite. Whereas in recruitment, I can be like, okay, we're going to close this deal. Let's do it. Like I have that drive. So the drive was missing. So I think that was the key realization. Yeah. So the drive was missing. And then also realizing that it was my favorite product in that area wasn't programmatic advertising, it was the people. Yeah.
And I really loved your brand name.
Thanks.
I've always loved it, from the first time I saw it and the website. Talk to me about how you actually come up with uncommonly good people, because that's so uncommon. And
what's so funny, it's actually like it was not interesting at all, but it's interesting if you work in like ad tech and like creative ad tech stuff like that. So I've always been quite like a creative person. While I was at News Corp, I worked in like what essentially was like their in-house creative agency in London. And basically, I love the word people, right? Okay, so what actually happened is I had a spreadsheet. And I knew that I wanted a word that was about people that are hard to find, basically the word good or nice, and a word that described humans, right? So it could have been like hard to find nice humans, like it could easily have been that. And I basically went through hundreds of iterations. So I knew that I wanted to work with nice people. And so it really kind of came together through that. And also as well, I think the connotations of good are really appropriate. Doing good work, again, being a good person. And it's it's hard to screen. You can't screen for someone's like pure personality and like what they're going to be like inside, but I think that's something that's kind of obviously measured with EQ and stuff as well. So that's pretty much how I came together with the name. And uncommonly good people kind of rolled off the tongue, UGP. So yeah, it was, I don't know, it was one of those moments where I was like, yes, this is the one. But it came from a mixture of, I suppose, the way that I work, so which is like creatively, and then also using a spreadsheet. I love a spreadsheet. So like if there's a creative way to use a spreadsheet, I'm there for it. So yeah.
Oh, love
story,
it. I think
yeah.
thanks for sharing. I think we could hear your values there. people and kindness. And yeah, I think that reflects a lot in there. Thanks for sharing.
And I think everyone as well everyone is uncommon. Like everyone's different.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing as well, is that it's, there are two different ways of interpreting it. It's like, oh, the person who is hard to find, which is, true from a recruitment perspective. But I also just like the fact that everyone's different, and there's a different, there's a different job for everyone and a different type of company. It just is completely like subjective. So yeah.
I love that, to celebrate the differences, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah, because we're unique. Each of us.
Yeah, it could have been, I think unique was one of the things there as well. Unique, good people. I mean, that sounds a bit strange. That sounds like maybe like a random closed store on Orchard Road.
That's good already. UGP. Great. And then I think you touch on as well about the process. It wasn't like they didn't happen overnight. And just tell us a bit about how long that transition process, I guess, from the first step where you started thinking about it to eventually do something about it. How long was that for you?
Oh, ages. So like, it's in recruitment, some people say it's the fate of every recruiter to start their own recruitment consultancy, right? It's kind of like a saying in our industry. But for me, I was working in-house, and I think when you're working across one brand, you have to like believe in that brand like through and through. And I did, and I loved it, and that was great. But as a salesperson, I was selling the same thing over and over and over again. And it was just getting boring, to be frank. And there's only so many times you can say the same thing over and over and over again. So that started sowing the seed with me. Also from like a financial perspective, I knew that essentially I could work less and make the same amount of money, but with a higher risk factor. Right. So that was the biggest risk. It was like, right, eventually I'll be able to work less. Not anymore. Not when you decide to grow the business and you just work way more for less. But, at the beginning, I think when you're quite expert and niche in something that you do and you want to go it alone, that's the risk. You know that there's either a pot of gold, and that gold could be time, it could be money, it could be many different things. But it's going to take you a while to get there. So it probably took me about 6 to 12 months before I left that I was thinking about it. Then when I actually decided to do it was January 2020. And then March 2020 was COVID. So I left, just quite happily, but then everyone got made redundant who was on my team anyway. So I was a bit like, bummed out. I've missed out on a redundancy package, even though, I left on my own accord. So I was happy about that. And then there was nothing to do. There was nothing to do. So I took the risk, and then I was like, actually can't do anything. But I was very lucky, because what it gave me was the space to really think about what I was going to do, instead of like having that, we talked about it before, like the scarcity mindset. I was like, right, well, scarcity's here. There's literally nothing I can do about it. Like, there are no jobs, people are losing their jobs. There's nothing I can do about it. So reframe what you're going to do in those next 6 to 12 months, because you're not going to make any money, Helen. And that's pretty much what happened, actually. It gave me time to set the business up. So from that March, it was in October, the business was actually legit and working. You need a license over here in Singapore to do what we do. 7 months to set up, not even have a company, just, a brand, be able to work. And then the first time I made money was in the following May. So the whole process was probably about 2 years. 2 years, from like thinking about doing it to actually making money.
And I think, don't you think that often we get so impatient because when we want to start something new, that we kind of compare our previous life or previous work, and then we just kind of assume, no, well, you just have to figure it all out in 6 months. And then the truth is that it probably took us a good few years to get to a place where we make money that we like. Now, when you start something new, you might be faster in terms of figuring it out, but you still kind of start everything from scratch. So thank you.
And also value is in a different way. Like I'm very lucky. But, you know, my husband was really supportive of me making that career decision. He was completely like, yeah, go for it. I suppose I just want to acknowledge that, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without having someone be able to like back me long term financially. Like, we always joke that like right now he's putting in the hard, you know, he'd done this, and I'll be his retirement fund in the future. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge that, because it's not possible for everyone to just be able to go, hey, I'm gonna kind of give, or you have to save, and you have to budget, and or you have to get investment. Like, it's a lot.
I guess the message here is very important, whatever that is, to figure out your game plan for your financial confidence.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that is, maybe saving, or maybe from your partner, get the support. It is important to think about that before doing anything, because that's important for you to have that space to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you view it as, especially if you're starting your own business, you have to view it as an investment.
Yeah.
So if you have savings and you are working for yourself, you have to, you know, if it's going to cost you $50,000 to start your business and to support yourself, then you take that out, you put it in the business as an investment, and you can pay yourself, or do what you need to do, so that you know, you could just keep it in your savings and go like that, but it's better to put it into what you're going to do, put it as aside. And it's also like, for me, it was really like, when I started my business, we had to take money out of the savings, and it was like us putting like a big old chip down on like a gamble. And it's got to be like the safest gamble you're ever going to make, because it's on yourself. The only person you're going to let down is yourself. And not even let down, like, because what you would have learned a lot along the way, even if it's not successful. But yeah, like, if you put that money in and you put it down, then when you are making money from your own business, you can take that back.
Yeah.
And there's been no risk.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have that available to you, you have to do it. And it's also it's a bit of a line in the sand that you have to make it work. You have to make it work.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, like, you don't want to operate from a place of fear, but it makes you think more logically, you know?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Bet on yourself and give yourself that space, so that you can operate and make your business work with grace, right? And you don't have to operate out of fear. Love that. You talk about the gold pot, just, you know, just now, and assuming the gold pot is success, what is your current definition of success?
You know me, my major measurement of success is money. Like, I'm very good at quantifying things like that. I suppose you put it into different things, like your first, second, third, or whatever. So my major one is finances, or financial whatever.
Independence.
Independence. But for me, I have byproducts that I don't measure, but I should measure, right? So my byproducts they're not time, it's flexibility. So I'm able to do, for the most part, whatever I want to do, right? Because in my business, if you don't work, you don't make money. So as long as you can make peace with that, it will give you all the flexibility that you want in the world. But of course, like, taking a step back, my major measurement of success is happiness. And then for me, it's like, what makes you happy? Right? Happiness is here. And then it's like money, time, enjoyment, job enjoyment, right? So
so happiness first, and then money comes, as long as it comes from doing the things that you love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so good. And I'm also curious about mistakes and failures in general, because I really believe that mistakes do make us, and the struggles in the past. I wonder if you would like to share, what are some mistakes that made you?
Make them all the time. Constantly making mistakes, like all the time. Just constantly make mistakes. And I mean, some example, in the moment, they're mistakes. In hindsight, they're learnings. So in the moment, mistakes I've made are hiring on a whim, taking cash flow for granted, I think those are the two main things. Just taking anything for granted, not future planning enough. Again, like they're mistakes, but I wouldn't know how to get around them if I hadn't have made them.
Yeah, you wouldn't have.
It's like anything. It's like being a toddler, right? And just walking into a table. First time that happens, I remember the first time my son walked into a table, I was like, oh my God, do we take him to the hospital? And like the 50th time, I was like, he's fine. Yeah, he'll stop crying in a minute. So it's hindsight.
Yeah. And what would be some tips, if someone's watching, and how can we overcome, failures or mistakes? Like what would be the thing that has helped you the most to just, to learn from your mistakes or to get over it, in that sense? What has worked for you?
When I do stuff like that, I have to tell myself that there's nothing else I could have done, because I didn't have the information or like I said, like the bump on the head to stop me from going in the other direction, right? I was just going in that direction. Everything looked good. Of course you can look at parameters and look at how other people do it. And yes, we should all ask advice. I could have asked for way more advice from so many more people. But I think like if you stand still for too long, you're just not going to do anything.
Sometimes
I'm like,
I think
just do it. I'm just like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Like, and if it all goes to shit, then then like at least you tried. Like, number one, try and make informed decisions. But you can't know everything, and you can't beat yourself up about what you didn't know. And if it was someone else that you knew and they made the same decision, your friend is not going to sit there and say, oh, well, you could have done this and you could have done that and you could have done this. It's like, no, that's just like the niggling little voice that is telling you that. This is basically right out of the Catherine textbook here, to just make you not do it again, to like, I'm pretty sure that that's something that we discuss. It's like, that's just the voice that's warning you, don't make that mistake again, don't make that mistake again. But because we're so like just blinded by everything, and because we're so used to like just feedback from everything and anyone in like the corporate world, you think, oh, shouldn't have done that, especially if you're on LinkedIn all day and like just seeing people like, like, oh, I've got a new job and I'm amazing and this is great and I'm brilliant. You're just gonna, it's comparison. It's just gonna eat you up. So
the comparison.
Give yourself a break. Cut yourself some slack. There's nothing you could have done. Don't do it again.
I'm hearing a lot of self-compassion could be helpful here.
You've got to, because you're not going to get it from anywhere else. Come on, if you're a working mum, I mean, you're going to get it from your friends, but there's too many things going on in the day for you to, that kind of positive feedback. Most time efficient way to get that is to just give it to yourself.
Exactly. It's just readily available to you. And it's free, and you can access that. It does take time to cultivate that. Especially if you're not used to give that love and compassion to yourself. And
of course,
what I was hearing as well from what you said was you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. With that story that you do know a lot, but you also can't know everything, and that piece that you don't know is wisdom, right? You learn new things that you don't know. But hearing advice from 100 people would also confuse us, right? So I think it's a delicate balance, checking, getting the data, but also at the same time trust yourself, and then just go for it, and then risk it, bet on yourself, learn from it, and love it. And I just want to turn back. I'm just curious about what did growing up look like for you, Helen?
It was just a bit mad, really. No, it was good. I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky to have been born and raised in the UK. I just basically won the lottery in terms of that, really. I was really, really lucky in that respect. But yeah, it was pretty average and normal and boring. I was born in a town called Luton, like awful. Like, sorry for anyone, if anyone's from Luton, but I think we're both agree it's horrific. Very, you know, my mum was super young, council flat, normal, working class family. So yeah, then my mum was a police officer, still is. And so we just kind of grew up very much like myself and my brother, small family, single mum.
Oh, she's a single mom.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
she to all intents and purposes, she was a single mum. And then she remarried when we were sort of 11, 12-ish. And then I moved to a place called Essex, which is again super working class, but it's a nice place to live. It's by the seaside, very English, like London commuter town. And yeah, again, went to a normal school. I didn't, not privately educated or anything like that, but I was lucky to go to a really good uni, and also be able to go to university when student loans were like not that much. It was still, you know, fees and stuff were not big. So again, yeah, so I sort of moved to London basically from when I was 18. So I lived in London from when I was 18 through 25 before I moved to Sydney. So yeah, growing up I was lucky. So yeah, look, a pretty normal upbringing by you know, everyone's standards, but it definitely wasn't like a 2.4 normal family, mum, dad, working, that kind of thing. It was definitely a bit crazy and a bit, you know, fend for yourself type thing. So but not, that wasn't a bad thing. We definitely, the women in my family have definitely had to, yeah, like I said, fend for ourselves, and was taught from a very early age that you can only rely on yourself. Sorry.
Yeah.
I say that, I'm like, I started my business by relying on my husband, but it was in my MO, like never rely on a man ever.
Yeah.
But also, yeah.
I love also the story of your mom. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of resilience also coming from your childhood, and also that philosophy of like, you know, being independent, and I think that perhaps that childhood experience also shaped how you see life. And also you talk about the drive, right? And I think that probably was the catalyst as well, that, you know, for you to have that drive and resilience in what you do now.
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. Like by UK standards, like my upbringing was pretty but we were pretty poor. Like we didn't have any money and stuff. But by international standards, we obviously definitely weren't. So I think like moving between countries as well, and I owe a lot to also my friends who just encouraged me to travel. You know, they're very, again, this is sort of my personality, whereas someone says, oh, we're doing this, do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, cool, all right, yeah, I'll just go there. I don't care. So being, I suppose, like an international citizen definitely made me think as well, like there's like nothing that you can't do. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. Like I moved to Australia with like £1,000, like, which lasted me about a week, obviously, because I was 25 years old and just went out. So, you know, I really do believe, like, you know, if you put your head down, you can just crack on and just get on and do it. But there's always going to be a risk. Always going to be a risk. And you just have to mitigate that risk.
I think we can hear all about adventure in your life. You just, you know, saying yes to the next adventure.
This is the thing, I hate adventure. I always say yes. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I love just sitting at home doing nothing. Like across the way, I can just see my husband and my son on the sofa, and I'm like, yep, I'd happily just sit on that's, again, I was so lucky in COVID that I was in a complete bubble and just didn't have to do anything. So you know, I was so unbelievably lucky. So, but there's nothing I love more than routine. I love routine, but then at the same time I'll throw it all out the window.
I think I think, that's something I can resonate with you, that I love routine, but I think perhaps sometimes it's okay to want routine and want a bit of adventure and have
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's probably that good balance is what I feel good for me, because I think that routine for a long time might be a bit boring as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably like a superpower that like you and I both share, is that like I could make a routine anywhere.
Yeah.
Like if my husband was like, right, we've got to move to Japan, or we've got to go here, or I was like, right, the business, this is all, we've been chucked out of the country and we have to move somewhere else. It's fine. We'll just be like, okay, cool, pack the bags, go, sit down. And it would take it out of me, but not as much as I think a normal person.
Yeah.
You just crack on.
Love
You're
it.
like, this is where I live now. This is what I do. Let's go.
Yeah, there is acceptance to it, and then okay, let's flip
Yeah.
from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what am I going to do about it? I can't. I think, is it a bit toxic? I don't know. But I hate I will wallow a bit, but I'm also, no, I will wallow a lot, but I'm also like, I can simultaneously wallow and just crack on.
And crack on. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
just be like, right, well,
Yeah.
just got to keep going. But maybe that's a woman thing as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I resonate with that deeply. One last question. What advice do you have for anyone who's considering a career change? Perhaps they want to change industry, change the role, or even leave corporate.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that, is on your mind right now, that one advice from you.
Right. One thing that I always say to my candidates is, we've all got an ideal job, right? We've all got a dream job. And I think sometimes we can sit there, we can be in our current role and think, oh, I want to move job. I want to go to this job over here. It's completely different. Like, how the hell am I going to get there? And so there are two ways to do it. The first is to just quit your job, completely retrain and go from there. The other way, and what I tend to recommend, or I just think, oh, just workshop it out, is how do you get to that job in like 3 steps. So, if I was like, right, I'm currently a recruiter, I think about like, okay, well, what is in my like circle of influence, right? So if I want to be a HR person in, say, like a gaming company, right? How am I going to get there? I'm a recruiter. My first thing that I should probably do is become a gaming recruiter and move to that job, and then train in HR, and then move on to that next job. And then I can move up the ladder from there. So I kind of think, like, think about what job you want, the ideal where you're at right now, and either take the risk, go for it. If you've got the facilities to, that's I think that's the thing. If you've got the facilities to, just go for it, bet on yourself. If you haven't got the facilities to, then work out how you're going to get there in 3 steps, and make peace with the fact that you're not going to have your dream job tomorrow. But you're going to have your dream job in a couple of years, right? And that's always a part of the thing, to be honest, as well. So many times we get to that dream job and we're like, oh, it's not, it's all cracked up to be. So what it also does is it gives you the space to explore things around that as well, and gives you space to change your mind and move with the times. It's most of the time it's just about work. We feel good when we're working to get to that point.
I think this is
we're
also
never going to get to the top, to the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Once you've got there, you'll just quit and just won't care anymore.
Yeah, I love that. I'm hearing that, have a goal and then find the 3 steps, but also at the same time, accept that it's not a straight line, right? You see it as a quest, right? And when you're exploring it, the first step, number 1, maybe you have a different realization, and that's okay, right? But at least, you move forward. You're not just stuck and then, feeling all the resentment and then, feeling stuck and you're not doing anything, but you really just start exploring and getting out to reach the goal.
And it is like a quest, like, because also I'm just in my head, I'm a very visual person, again, this, but like it's like a computer game. It's like you're playing Zelda and you're on this quest to the end, and you've got different levels and different stages to get through, and on the way you need friends, right? You need to, you're building up your ammo, and you're building up your skills, and you're building up and you're like, oh, I'm going to make friends with this troll at this drawbridge over here, and they're going to help me. So it's the same. Like, you need to make friends, and it's honestly not even, people talk about, you know, get a mentor and do this, and I'd highly recommend getting a coach, obviously. You know, you don't need a mentor. Like, that's just such a big word. You just need some friends.
Yeah.
You just have to make some friends who are in these spaces, who can help guide you along the way. And that's super important. And also, just, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just, like, people do not use LinkedIn enough. Follow these people. You know, everyone loves to be
in your
flattered.
fingertips. Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much, Helen.
Pleasure.
Yeah, that was so insightful to hear your journey. I think you kept saying that was a normal childhood, but yeah, what is normal, right?
Nothing's normal.
And
everyone's got a weird childhood, and everyone's messed up by it.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure that a lot of people could learn from it. It shows your resilience and your courage, and how you balance this routine and adventure, and you know. And I think, yeah, I mean, you've moved countries for so often as well. So that's again, is not an easy.
Too much.
So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
My
I'll see you
pleasure.
next
Thanks
time.
for talking to
Take
me.
care.
Bye.